gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Carter.
Mr. Chairman, I yield my time to Mr. Magaziner.
And I won't be long because I don't want to belabor anything. I agree with Mr. McCall. It is time for us to pass a version of this bill, 100%. The threat is real. Chinese espionage, IP theft are real. American universities, unfortunately, are a conduit for that. No disagreement there. What I am concerned about is how broad this legislation, this version of legislation, appears to be for me. So again, the way it's written, if a department of a Chinese university has a relationship with the Chinese version of NASA, right, and a totally unrelated department is working with an American university on something, then they are restricted from this funding. If the University of Rhode Island, right, we've got a great marine biology program at the University of Rhode Island, or the Ocean State, if they were working with a Chinese university on marine science, on fisheries, something that had nothing to do with the military, no military application at all, but that Chinese university had a separate department that was working with the Chinese version of NASA, then as I understand it,
Would the gentleman yield to the chair?
That collaboration would not be permitted because the definition, yes, in a second, the definition of an entity of concern is any Chinese college or university that works with one of these Chinese defense-related agencies in any respect. I'll yield.
The gentleman yields. I want to thank him for that. I just want to point out the Intelligence Act of 2017 from the Chinese Communist Party that requires all data to be shared that is gathered. So any entity, I mean, it is all one entity, right? So,
yeah.
And you're aware of that, okay.
Okay, right, understood. But again, I'm talking about research, you know, Representative Correa used the example of research in the healthcare space. You know, I'm using the I'm trying to think of examples that are as far away from the military field, as far away from, you know, profitable US IP as possible. Could not work with a Chinese university if an unrelated department in that university was also doing research that had a military application.
Would you yield one more time to me, though? As I understand it, by the definition, it would only be those with ties to the military.
Right, but again, as in our universities, our large universities, there are some departments that may be doing work with our military, our DOD, and other departments that do, you know, romance languages or things that are totally unrelated. And so I guess what I'm saying is, if this were limited to research that had defense applications or industrial applications, that I would understand. If there was even just a simple waiver, then I would support this bill most likely. If we pass the ranking member's amendment to allow for waivers, I would certainly support this bill. But I am concerned that while the intent is 100% right, and I absolutely agree we ought to pass something in this space as soon as possible, we may be inadvertently doing this more broadly than any of us would intend or any of us would agree is reasonable. I'll yield back to the.
Well,
I don't remember who I have time from at this point. So whoever it is.
The ranking member has 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Well, thank you. The only thing I'd say is we tried to negotiate with Mr. Pfluger, and I heard Mr. Bishop say the bill is soft. We actually tried to make it harder in our negotiations. Let me tell you what we said. We said Chinese entities of concern language be banned S&T R&D funding for any U.S. university that has a relationship with any Chinese university, since basically every Chinese university contributes to the Chinese defense industry in some way, so long as the DHS secretary can issue a case-by-case waiver. So we basically tried to ban everything. But we couldn't get it negotiated, and so that kind of brings us to where we are now. But there were a lot of us who wanted to do exactly what I'm hearing people say that's not in the bill, and we weren't able to get it in. I yield back.